Great, we have a quorum, so we should get started. Remind folks that we're being recorded by DCTV. This is in person, and the microphones are on, so be mindful of your side conversations. And let's get started. And Happy New Year to everybody, son of a gun. 2025, that's kind of a,
I know, huh? Oh,
that's an interesting,
Imagine that.
that's almost like Rod Serling,
Yeah.
kind of Isaac Asimov kind of
Coach
numbers.
Jester would be 3 years old right now,
Yeah.
so concerned about that.
Yeah, 2025. Great, so we all received a copy of the minutes. And I could have a motion to accept and approve the minutes.
So moved.
And a second.
second.
All right. Any additions, edits on the minutes?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, all in favor to accept the minutes?
Aye.
And we have 2 abstentions. Do we have any invoices this month? No
Oh, wow.
invoices.
That's a classic.
Oh, my
There we-
God, we don't have any legal fees?
No legal fees.
Jeez.
And one thing I would mention here, and we'll look at it next month when we look at our finances, but I thought, well, it's a bit of good news. Donna Fernandez is really good about sending out the quarterly kind of financial report for the CPA funds. And so we'll look at that in February. But in considering, I was looking it over, and one thing I asked, I said, I'll start doing the projections for fiscal year 26 and what our resources look like if she could give, but I haven't had an updated debt schedule for a while, and so I'm kind of working off an older schedule because she sent me the debt service, the current debt service schedule, because I know it continues to go down. And she got back to me, and this is our last year of debt service.
Oh, wow.
Fiscal 26, there will be no debt service payments. So kudos to the town. Over the course of over time, the town kind of works its best, tries to maintain the best position in the bond market. So sometimes they kind of call bonds earlier, sometimes, whatever. So it looks like over the years, this has panned out well for us, and so that's great. So I asked her if there's something we could burn, like you burn a mortgage or something like that, and there's nothing we can burn. We probably can't even burn it in here, but we'll have to think of something when July comes around.
Bring a barrel, we'll stick it outside, we'll burn.
Something,
burn a
yeah,
barrel.
yeah.
How about
Yeah.
some good champagne?
Yeah, but that's great. Kudos. We've been able to support
Good.
projects
Yeah.
over the years without borrowing, and so that's good news. Hi, speaking of good news, welcome and Happy New Year.
How we doing?
Good, how you doing?
So I have an old business item, and I was thinking that there are some things we want to keep on our radar screen. That's typically we don't have an old business item, but it's probably something advisable to carry in our agenda. So one thing we don't want to lose sight of is we still have the outstanding eligibility consultation for the old Smith Mills Library, and that is to move it to the Smith Mills Camp property. And I had sent off a request for town council to review this idea, and if it's something that would be eligible for CPA funding, and if not, is there an avenue that might make it feasible for CPA funds? And so part of the question is, it's a town-owned building. If it goes on to Smith Mills Camp, is it going on to private property? Or does this need to be Does land need to be subdivided and conveyed to the town? Is it going to be the town to maintain? There's those kinds of questions about exactly who benefits from this, and in the end, whose property is it, kind of questions. And the Smith Mills folks have been very patient, waiting for kind of an answer on whether this is a project that might have some feasibility. And they seem flexible to ideas about how it might work. So that we really need town council to weigh in and give us some guidance. And I was informed that they are working on it. So maybe by our February meeting, we'll have some guidance from town council about how such a project might be able to proceed or not.
Buddy,
Yeah.
I wasn't able to find in my pile, not all that well-organized pile, the original document about this, and so my memory, of course, fails me too. And who's requesting this, and what is the building to be used for?
Yeah. The Smith Mills campus kind of submitted the consultation request, and that would be to relocate and rehab the old Smith Mill Library, to preserve it and have it on their property. They were clear that they don't have a use for it, so it would be basically hosting it, I guess you might say. They were very clear that they don't have a maintenance budget for taking on another building, but they would be willing to have the building if it would preserve the building. They would be willing to have the building moved over to their Tucker Road property.
If I remember correctly, it came from someone from Historic Preservation.
Yes, Sue
It
Gaducci,
wasn't
right.
Smith Mills Camp that was
Yeah.
Yeah, they call it
advocating
that.
it. It was
It was Sue
somebody in an
Guducci.
historic group.
Susan
Yeah, Sue Gaducci.
Yeah, and they just utilize the Smith Mills as just
Right.
like a storage area for it, essentially.
Right, right. But Smith Mills Camp didn't request.
No. They were approached.
They were
I-
approached,
I-
but they actually made the request to us. But,
They
Right.
did, okay. The
Yeah.
other one was submitted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it was definitely in concert with Sue Gaducci from the historic, trying to find some avenue that could preserve that building.
I went and had a look at the building yesterday. It needs a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
Sills, the roof is failing, gutters are half gone. There's a large masonry chimney that is going to complicate any building moving. And do they have a budget for its restoration?
I think that would be part of what, if this was a eligible project, I think that would be the ask. It would be a proposal to both the cost of moving and then restoring.
I'd be asking early on, is there an interesting historical aspect of it, other than it's being older than any of us? Is it of particular architectural merit? Not that I could see.
The big thing, it's historic to the people in Smith Mills. That was their library, the fire department used it. So there is a lot of historical significance to them, as they have lost all of the other buildings that they had in Smith Mills. That's one of the last ones. That's why it was moved originally.
So they're schmaltzy about that building.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of,
Sentiment.
there's a lot of sentiment about that building there.
I think it was once a schoolroom too, if I'm
Yeah.
not
Yes,
mistaken.
it's gone back. I mean, there are pictures of there, if you go in the fire department, District 3, there are pictures of that building there originally, when that was the primary fire department there. And you talk to some of the old timers, they'll tell you that building does have a lot of historical significance to the people in the northern part of town. So that's why it was moved the first time. It was supposed to go to Anderson Way and become kind of like a visitor center type of thing. You know what I mean? Someplace where people, they were gonna restore it and have people come in, they would have a lot of documents and stuff for the town there. But that fell by the wayside a few years ago, and it was moved to town property just to save it from being destroyed back then.
Yeah. And then I think there was a proposal to move it to the North Dartmouth, the new North Dartmouth Library location, but the library
On Crossroads.
trustees did not want to do that.
So, I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, I got the sense from Smith Mills, if my memory serves me correct, that they were gonna do that, but they were looking at other alternatives to people doing that. And for whatever reason, Boy Scouts kind of pops into my head. I'm not sure if there was some type of that for a meeting room, or if they were gonna have, allowed it to be like a public meeting room. So, I mean, the camp itself was kind of open to it. They were concerned is where we're trying to find out the legal side, whether or not people coming back and
Yeah.
forth, which is what their concern was. So, and I think it can be that chimney stronger than what you think, because Silvestri, that moved it the first time, had that same concern, and they were pretty good with it when they moved it. So,
All right, so hopefully we'll get some guidance for our next meeting and can give a response back to those folks so that they can decide if it is eligible, they can decide how to, if they want to prepare an application for the June deadline. Okay. Next on our agenda is the CPC webpage. Ed Magnolia's here. Thank you for coming, appreciate it.
For having me. Just gonna set up really quick. So I'll introduce myself while I'm setting up. I know I recognize some of you, but some of you are new to me. So I am the town's communications coordinator. My name is Magnolia. And today I'm showing you some updates I made to your webpage. I worked with Chad Deschamps on this, our systems analyst. And I think they're cool. I think you're gonna like it. All right, so first, this is your webpage on the town website. It should look pretty familiar. The first thing I added was this paragraph down at the bottom at Buddy's request. It is talking about the working with the historical commission, and it links to the map of the historical
Oh, great, you're able to do that.
reserved areas in the whole entire state, I think, is listed on this. So it's this map.
Okay.
So what that, if I may, what that is what we had talked about at the last meeting, and so what this, again, trying to be very clear and transparent about the connection between the historic building inventory as something that has been financed and purchased through the CPA administrative funds. So one of the things that on our website now, it describes how we periodically have conducted this inventory in conjunction with the Historical Commission. And then there's a link that goes to the Mass Historic Commission site, which has all these Form Bs, the digitized and stuff. And so that's very cool. Historical Commission website has the same link, but you can get to it from there as well.
Yeah. So I played around with it a little bit. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I was happy to add that with this little paragraph. But the main reason I'm here today is to show you this new tab, which is CPC Project Map. And so this is a new map on your page that pinpoints where all of the different projects are. And it's interactive. So I'll show you, it's you can play with it within the web page, or you can also make it bigger, and then it brings you to the main page here. And once it loads, you'll see that you can pick a project, and it'll give you a couple details on it. And so this is something, if you guys wanted a more expansive definition or description on these projects, if you send that over to us, we can easily upload that into any of these projects and add as many pins as you all desire. So you'll see it has like the year it started, the acreage, where it's applicable, and there were some with more detail. Yeah, so this is the only recreation activity that has a slightly different icon. We thought it, because it was the bike map, and it's a bike activity, so we thought that was cute. So yeah, 34-mile marked bike route connecting Dartmouth Heritage kiosks. And then within this, if you wanted to link to other web pages, we could accommodate that, I believe, and it shows the year it's relevant. And it goes back pretty far, and it's really cool to see how, like, it really demonstrates that your projects span the entire town and a lot of different categories. And you can see over here, it also really visualizes how many of each
great.
type of project.
How did you do that?
So this is a product that Google offers for free that Chad he made this, and then I put it on the webpage. But yeah, you just put the pins where you want and put the information in, and it creates this map that's available for anyone to see. And so this was what Buddy had sent to base it on was Falmouth's. It has a very similar situation, so we took inspiration from this, and that's how we got to this on our webpage. And anything else that you folks want to add to this page or expand upon, I'm happy to take that information and put it into this.
Yeah, so if you could click on one of them, and so we see what comes up. Great. And so, what's some of the information that we might like to have on projects pop up here when someone clicks on one of these pins?
Photo?
A photo?
Could
I'll
we
have
do
to
that?
I'll have to double check on if photo
Yeah.
is available.
Because this is from Google Earth, is this down from Google Earth?
The map is Google Earth.
Right.
Like we can change the way this background looks. Like I think we could do it where it's a satellite view, but I'm not sure if within this section we could input like a picture we took from the street. I'd have to double check on that.
Or can you store a photo of the project at one time?
What I'm thinking we could do to sort of work around it, if it's not available, is we could put like a see photo here with a link to the photo
Right.
within like a Google Drive and then
Okay.
just link out to that.
Well, like the primary person's, like the lead person on the project, that if a resident has a specific question, they can contact them directly.
Some of those are
They're
open,
alive.
aren't they?
Well, what I'm saying, if the project's active, if it's something that's held by the Buzzards Bay group, then there's a contact, they can call them, they could speak to a person there, or.
Yeah, we could put like
Dan-
something that says like project sponsor
Right.
and then
So-
a way to contact.
Instead of them calling Michelle, yeah, they can call the person directly if they want more information on that, It kind of like, it's, instead of bothering her with things. No, I mean, but I would do it, I would look for who the person is in charge of, the Mendes, housing.
And if a photo isn't available, could you link into Street View?
Potentially, that's,
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what's available within the section. It might just be name, description, and then the details from Google Maps.
Okay.
But there's gotta be a way where we can
Yeah.
finesse it to link to some sort of
Cool.
visual media.
But
Yeah.
If I'm green and coming here for the first time and trying to educate myself on CPC and what we're doing and what we have done, currently this tells me nothing. Tells me there's a project over there, 10 units of what? Hostels, apartments, boat berths, it gives me
A
no
little bit
information.
more description.
A picture would be, I think, at the most, but why aren't we, I don't know what our files look like, are our files digitized? Why aren't we providing as much information if it's available? All information is public. Why aren't we putting applications in there, what we spent on that project, what was the town contribution, what were the matching?
Well, that's
Really
that's the
educate people.
purpose of.
If somebody wants to
Yeah.
drill down, why do they have to go to multiple areas and, multiple requests? It'd be nice to just go to one spot and see all the files on that project. How many requests were made? We have projects where there are multiple requests for funds that are on this site. I'm assuming if I Googled on one of those now, it doesn't tell me anything about that. That the Akin House is a prime example. I think there were 3 or 4 requests for that project. I'm assuming if I tapped on that, there's not any of that information there. In my opinion, I think
Yeah,
that would be a goal to get to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is to have all our files associated with that one click. If someone really wants to drill down, all that information is there for
yeah,
them.
and some of it might be achieved through links, so you don't overwhelm somebody, but it's clear that if you want to go further, right?
Even for us members.
Yeah, but I mean, there would be
My
like,
memory's terrible,
yeah.
No.
I don't keep good records, so,
That's a shock.
the Akin House, I can't remember how much money we gave them, what year we gave to them, and, I would have to come into the office and open up the files, I don't even know where the files are. But it'd be nice just to be able to go to a website and boom, and re-educate ourselves for members and the public at large.
So some of the things, well, actually, Your thoughts?
I would, in this format, I would love to see things that highlight the projects but don't overwhelm people with information. So I think it would be great to have whoever the sponsor of the project was, and if they have a website, a link to their website. Is the project completed or not? And then a brief description that, you know, is, kind of sells the project. Like, this is why this is an important project. And then it would be great to have, I think it's a bigger project to digitize, I'm guessing, all the projects. But is there like, could we, for people who do want more information, could we work on getting that into a database that then it could link to the database and you could just search by project? Like, maybe that's an easier way, like having that. But I'd
right.
also like a little bit of information on what does it mean to have an agricultural preservation project or an open space? Like, could we have just like a little definition of what each of the different projects are? Like, what does recreation mean? Like, what can the fun, because it's also, it's like two things. It's like telling people what we've done, but it's also getting people excited about applying.
That was an idea. While I was doing this, it felt natural to almost underneath this have a, like
Yeah.
in this area, a description of like what an agricultural preservation, what the qualifications for that would be, and have that definition underneath, so. I'm,
And then I'd love to see, I don't know how the town works with social media, but I'd love to see like some Instagram posts of like, hey, look at this new tool we have on, like when it's done.
that is me, and I'll make sure that happens, cause yeah, I think this is super
Super
cool
cool.
and I love that it's interactive and you can like,
Yeah.
as a user, get a feel for the projects in a way, and that's something that I think will be very easy to promote and get people to use, cause it's also very easy to use it from this end.
So I see this has got a little RSS feed link up there, so you can link this, you can
Yes,
share this, but you can also embed it on a different website.
and that's how it's here right now,
Okay.
exactly.
And you can have other plans for open space in the store.
She doesn't want the cow, though, she wants a horse.
So, so some of the information we've talked about, we can kind of add to this is, if we can, a photo, project sponsor with a link to, contact link, more description, the money and dates of awards for a particular project, the project status, because we could, you know, there are projects these are projects that have been completed. And then we've probably got about another 10 or 15, or at least 10 that are in progress. And so that's probably something that could be added as long as we have the status thing and people are clear.
Yeah, and then we could also, like, within this key, add a blurb that notes some projects are in progress, look for this note under project description.
And, you know, can we have a link to the application? If you want to kind of go deeper, you can get to the application. The nice thing is, over the last few years, we've been getting the applications submitted digitally as well as hard
They're
copy.
right, the link is right there, they can
Yeah,
click
to
that.
your point, the way our website's set up, it's super easy. Like, if you're on this page, you can see that project application is right here, but we can.
I think he meant the filled out application. So if you're looking at a particular project, you can, is that what you're saying,
Yeah, you can see what was submitted for
Oh,
the
okay.
Dyke Creek.
But we're doing it now, because of 24, right? Since June last year, we talked about this, and it looks to be that the most recent ones are up there, since we've
Right.
talked about it, since we've gone online.
Yeah,
with
we
them.
do, right, we do put them up when the projects that are under consideration, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, right, so it's possible to get to these things.
I mean, the other ones would have to be PDF or whatever type of file
Yeah.
format to have something that's searchable in a, I mean, the time each one of them, I think that's a lot of work. If you just put down previous files, if they know what they're looking at the Aiken House, and they go, all right, well, we switch over to project application, click the Aiken House, and that'll answer your thing. It'll have all of the documents, once it's all scanned in, which is labor intensive, but once that's all scanned in, people will be able to open up each individual one and see what it is, instead of, I think going forward, it'd be easier to link them, but I think going backwards, we could just put a link up there, something that they can just go to and try to keep the work to an absolute minimum.
but it would be super easy to just like have a link, right? If you already have the file and it's like on the on the website already,
Yes,
so you can, it's easy to link.
I love hyperlinks. As long as it's uploaded somewhere, I'll link it wherever
Yeah,
you want
The
it.
new ones that we have are all being, prior to last year, when we decided to do this, it was, again, paper is labor intensive, so everything's on file. So they'd have to go back and have somebody upload all of those into some type of a format, well, which would be searchable on there, which, that's a good job for a summer intern.
Yeah, because we could have that project database, you know, that had this kind of information that you could link to. I like the map as a place, as a jumping off place for, because it just, you know, one kind of visually, but then you can kind of, it's a good place, it's a helpful place to start, an interesting, maybe that's what I think. It's an interesting place to start if you want to figure out, what is the CPA doing in town? As opposed to, you could click on a list and you've got like 5 pages of project names. This is probably a much more interesting way to dive into it.
Yeah.
And what's that gap in the middle? Why is there no?
Gap in the middle.
Yeah,
Route 6 and 195.
On the map,
yeah,
that's the mall.
The
Oh,
mall's
yeah.
between 6
It's
and
Fons
195,
Connor
the
Road,
rest
the
of it's the
mall.
town forest.
195 interchange there with
UMass.
Connor Road.
Hicksville Road, Fons Connor Road, and the town forest, and the train tracks.
Well, this is pretty exciting,
Yeah.
really appreciate the
nice.
work you all have been
So
doing
yeah,
on this.
once as you get more information to put in this, we will make those
So
updates.
maybe what we can do is, we'll like maybe mock up 2 or 3 of these.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I'll see if I can kind of gather information on 2 or 3 of these. What I might do, and then if you have them up, what I might do is then email you all and say, hey, take a look at these 3 projects. These are the ones with the additional information. How, you know, how does that look? But we'll mock up a few that, you know, we'll attempt to get a photo up and things like that and see like, okay, how much can we do? And if that looks good, we can start to kind of go through the rest of these.
I'd like, Magnolia, if you could keep in mind that if there ever is, I mean, you've got close contact with the administrations. If there ever is a summer intern or somebody that's looking for some work, a
Yeah.
project, or projects, this would be, hey, you know, go over there, we need files digitized, loaded up and transferred over.
Technically, they're historical.
So keep us in mind if,
Yeah.
something like that, there's an opportunity down the road for, someone to take that on.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Buddy, I know in your email you had mentioned talk of a survey. Do you want
Yeah.
to get into that today?
Yeah, I think it's something that we've had talked about, I think it was back in September or something like that. And then I saw something, and I know you had your hands in it. It was something around the housing production plan. Mm-hmm. And it was. and
Yes,
I thought,
they made a survey.
yeah, I thought, all right, now that's pretty interesting. So one of the things that every year, we have to prepare a needs assessment and plan. And it's something that needs to have public input. So we are typically, over the last 100 years, we've been doing this. We invite people who have done projects with us to send in their comments on what our goals and strategies are. We invite the planning board and historical commission and housing authority, et cetera. And then we have a public hearing. But we get really very little participation. And so I have seen some towns have done surveys that really try to get at, so what do people think about priorities, the kinds of projects, how do they value, you know, open space preservation, affordable housing, things like that. So I'm wondering if that's something we could work with you about, and maybe you could talk a little bit about kind of how that's done and what you might need from us.
Certainly. So in anticipation of this, I looked at a survey that they're doing in Worcester. Oh, it's not that.
I love it when people anticipate something, don't you? I mean,
So this is what Worcester's doing.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's too long.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you really want people to fill it out, it's
Right.
got to be at least half this size. But they get into a lot of good stuff. So they break it down by category, and then they ask people to rate how important it is to them. And now, from what it sounds like, you want to do this more of like an internal survey for your different stakeholders, correct? Or are you looking to give this survey to the public?
I think we've been talking public, how to really reach people that we clearly don't reach with a public hearing kind of thing.
Okay, I can help with that, definitely. So, yeah, we can put together a survey. If you've done anything like this in the past, we can take inspiration from it. Or if you have an idea of what questions you all want to ask, I'm happy to sit down and have a conversation and just really like hash out what information are we trying to derive out of this, and we can design questions to get to the bottom of those answers. And I would,
Do we have the emails of most of the town residents? I mean, how are we gonna distribute this, buddy?
so we have the electronic backpack, which goes to all of the parents, which is a really great resource, so we can put it in that. We have the social media, which reaches a lot more people than you think it might. Like, it'll get responses through that. And then we also, what I've been doing is going to like the library, the COA, and getting those groups that might not be as online and having them, if they need like help filling it out or just becoming aware of it, so that way, like at the COA, one of the staff members there can help them fill it out, or there's a paper option there that we can then input into the computer. So that's how I try to reach a lot of demographics within town, by using our town buildings and facilities to reach as many people as possible.
And then, yeah, John?
What would be the purpose and goal of a survey for us as a committee?
Right. Well, before I answer that, that's a great question for all of us.
Well, I'm gonna play the
And you
devil's
might
advocate.
You
then.
might even have an answer to
Yeah,
that
well,
question.
you know, surveys are great, but, so a survey, asking questions, and if you ask in each one of our areas where we can appropriate monies, let's say the survey comes back and there's the majority of the survey saying we need to spend more money on
Soccer
historic
fields.
preservation or open space.
Yeah.
And there's some ideas. So we get that information, what are we gonna do with it then? We, as a committee, aren't the drivers of applications. So that's why I asked, what's our goal? So the goal, if the goal says if people want more open space, we don't drive that. We don't go out and look for open space and promote applications. That comes from the town, Buzzards Bay Coalition, the DNRT, same thing with historic preservations. We may find out that people really want that. Well, what can we do?
Yeah, so,
I think as a committee member, I can make sure, or one vote, can make sure that we have money appropriated for that fund in case something does come up. And we do, but if there's a strong interest in a certain, well, maybe we should throw some more money, keeping reserves over there. But what else can we do?
Right.
We can't drive the bus.
Right.
We can only steer it,
I had this
When we
discussion
get a request to go somewhere,
months ago, we
okay,
had
let's
this
see if
similar
we can go
discussion.
there, But, we're not, well, I should say, we're not pushing the bus. Somebody else is pushing the bus.
Yeah.
I think this could be part of an awareness campaign, so if you asked every person in town, do you know what a CPC is and CPA funds? I mean, what percentage of people are actually gonna know what it is? So when we were talking about, trying to come up with a plan and a 5-year plan for allotting money in different ways, you just get the same players applying and coming to the CPC. Like, that's when we started talking about like a survey, but also like a marketing campaign to or not marketing, but like an informational marketing campaign that's like getting the word out so more people understand what it is. And obviously not everyone's gonna apply, but you'll get in touch with enough people that have interest and are able to do projects. It's just, I feel like it's like two sides of a coin, right? One is, can we allot the money? But you're right, like, what are we gonna do with the survey? But if it's a pretty, like, not so in-depth survey, so it's working as awareness, and it's like educating people about what we do, like, through the questions, but then it's also like giving us insight into where we can allot money if people are gonna follow through with it.
Can I add to that point? With that in mind, so say we do find out that everyone wants open space projects, with that, I can use that information and say, for when I make a social media post promoting your committee and what you do, I'll make sure it includes that type of project and say, look at these great projects, because I know that's what people want to hear, and that's what will garner support and awareness for your committee, by telling people what we now know they're interested in. So like, from my perspective, that's what I personally would use the survey for, if in support of your group.
I think that,
The other
Jim? Yeah.
thing that might be done is to say, okay, these are the categories of things that community preservation can support. Do you have any ideas? And there are certainly people who will have an idea, and however innovative or lame it might be, they'll have ideas, and we can at least say, oh, we hadn't thought of that. We can funnel that lead to the folks who are more familiar with the process, whether it's.
Yeah, we're not a recruiting agency for them. I don't think we're a recruiting agency. I think when we talked about the survey a while back, it was to send a survey to other partners within the town, other entities, because it seems to be the same players over and over again. And I thought it was to say, all right, find out who the other players are. Something as simple, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the camps, we talked about ag's on board now. That was what I thought we were gonna kind of address the certain features like recreation, instead of just sending it out. We know Parks and Rec knows about it because that's usually the ones that take care of it. But instead of doing that, why don't we send it out to the girls, the boys, this group, that group, those specific smaller entities within that culture? I think you'll get a better response out of just shotgun approach to everybody out there.
You could do both, but to the question of like, what would we do with the information? And I think that's important, obviously important question. I think the idea is we need input from the town, both the entities in the town, and I think also the citizens of the town, where we have such an opportunity of access here and how to reach people, that to help us inform our needs assessment and plan every year. And so what are the priorities? Are there particular, what we do, are there particular areas of concern or particular projects in town that are of particular value? Right now, because we have so little public input, what we do is, and we've been fortunate this year because we basically make sure that our plan about what is the town value and what are the priorities are in sync with the bigger planning processes that the town has. Open space and recreation plan, master plan, housing production plan, as examples, the harbor management plan. And so what we do is we take from those documents the values, goals, objectives, and then even specific project ideas. Those, and partly because those plans represent a process of input. So the master plan they had little workshops, they had public meetings, they had committees, same thing with open space and rec. So in many respects, because we were fortunate that those two plans were done, updated most recently, there are things on there like certain piece of property, needs trail development. There are some pretty specific ideas there. We can't promote them, but it helps us then put it into our planning so that people can look at our plan and say, where does the town want to invest CPA funds? And what are important things for the town's CPA funding? You'll find in it some things like the old Smith Mill Library. That is a specific thing referenced in our plan because we got it from Historical Commission and you can find it in the master plan. Literally, old Smith Mill Library should be preserved. So it's really to inform that document of ours.
So would it be better to take the highlights of what the master plan, the recreation plan, and just take the highlights that affect us and just put those out there? Can you, and have the people say,
Right,
what is
so-
important to you? If,
Yeah.
categorize it, from 1 to 10, which is important.
That might be the way to structure
Yeah,
it.
because if you just give that shotgun, what's important, we're gonna get all sorts of bizarre things.
Yeah.
But I think if we have stuff on the master plan, because they spent a lot of time and effort on that,
Yeah, because
realistically, that's what we're working off anyways. And then
And it's-
have them categorize it.
yeah, it's kind of like asking the same question we ask when we send off to like the Historical Commission or Parks and Rec is, here's what our goals and priorities and strategies are. Are we on the right track? We ask people to comment on them. So it's probably that. Yeah,
To that point.
Yeah.
We do that, and as we started this conversation, we get very little input.
right.
So, are we beating a dead horse, going out with a survey? And I suspect if we get any response, it's gonna be the same players that are in the know already and who use the service, who are gonna comment if they comment at all, because many of them don't comment at all when we ask for input.
Well,
So while we're spinning our wheels
yeah.
there, and to Susan's point, I think we're better off doing a marketing and a PR campaign
Yeah.
to get the word out, who we are, what we are, and push other groups besides the known groups who already know we're here and know where to go to get the funds. As Joe put, Boy Scouts, Girl,
Yeah.
there's other organizations out there that aren't taking advantage of us. A PR campaign would go out and target other groups other than the ones we're serving or that are already being served. I think that would
Yeah.
serve us better.
Yeah.
I think this committee
I
is
think what
is
Susan
a
mentioned
marketing
is-
campaign.
is-
Her idea, I
Well,
think, is.
I think what Susan mentioned is a survey and marketing plan, actually, marketing go hand in hand. It is one of the ways, because you both describe what we're doing and what it can do, and say, we're interested in what you think. So they actually serve two purposes, but Susan, you were gonna say.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if we were just putting it up on the website, I would say you're not gonna get anything. But Magnolia has like great ideas, like the backpack. Like my kids in middle school, I get the backpacks all the time and look at them and do different things and go into the libraries and the Council on Aging. And so that means like she would put effort into getting it in front of people.
That's the
Yeah.
difference.
To make
yeah.
it, like if it were us, like forget about it. Like if I had to do it.
Yeah. It's
I-
not just like a set it and forget it thing. I'll be actively trying to get people to fill out the survey.
The town,
And,
yeah.
and I also have access
Yeah.
to that point to like emails of all the businesses in town. Like it's not just residents, it's like stakeholders in town that could use this funding or have an interest in what it's used for. And then, like I said, from that information, we can really start marketing your group. And with that over time, it won't be overnight, but over time, you'll get more responses.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise it works. I'm not just saying
So
it to make you feel good.
It kind of sounds like from our side that we need to decide if we want a survey or just marketing and like what a survey would look like and what that, like what would we do with the data? If we're not gonna do anything with the data, then it doesn't, then maybe it's just
Yeah.
marketing, so like as a group deciding what message we wanna put, well, like what are we trying to do with it?
I think marketing first and see what type of interest it would
too.
be.
I think
People
marketing,
are just CPC when they get their tax bill, because they wonder what that means, when they
Right.
see it, 2%. Other than that, they don't care. I agree with you. Other than that, I tell people what board you're on, they go, what do they do?
I think marketing.
Or that's right, that's the group that just protects land, that's a quote.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, yeah, good, they're close.
I see those things going hand in hand because it just seems a natural, will let us tell you who we are and what this has done and can do for the town. It just seems natural. And here's what our priorities are and goals are. What do you think of those? Now, obviously, survey would be a little
It can't be,
more
it
targeted
can't be
than that.
long.
But if you spend, would you spend 5 minutes and give us some feedback on our plan?
It could also be as
Because
simple
that's,
as,
that's where we need the information is feedback on our plan.
it could be as simple as what you said, where you just rank the, what are there, 5, 6 categories? You just rank those categories, what's most important to you, and then an open-ended section, any other comments you'd like to leave. It can be as simple as that, or, you know, as complex as this
I
like
would,
17
if I got that
page.
email, I'd already delete it,
Yeah,
Yeah.
realistically.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
that's too long.
Something simple,
Too long.
social media site, hey, click it over there, you got the screen, whatever, you know, like they do, like Channel 12 in the morning, they have a QR code you scan, and it tells you, you capable of doing that, QR codes, they can just scan it and do it.
So something else we can do is, it can also get embedded into the webpage. This is a survey I made for, the Century Club. So that it can be as simple as just, you don't even have to leave the website to fill it out. There's not like you're going down a rabbit hole of links. It can be easy to fill out. I'll tell you, reaching the 100-year-olds will be a lot more difficult than getting.
They're probably more
folks to
computer
fill it
savvy than
out.
some people I know, though. Especially if they're hooked up with a console and agent, they're teaching them everything down there.
Would, are there, a couple of people might be interested in working with Magnolia on just seeing what this marketing / survey component thing might look like? Because I think that will help us. Would you be interested in that? Yeah. It'll come back to us and it'll help us kind of really, okay, is that kind of where we want to go with it or not?
Sounds like a plan.
Jim, John, you're interested in that? Okay. Be like a little working committee that we could meet with you, and I think, not to make decisions, but to help mock up something that then come back to here, and then we can say, okay, that seems like a good fit or not. Okay, because there's, Magnolia is a resource that I agree with Susan. If it's just something we tried to do, I wouldn't put any more effort into what we do now. But Magnolia is a resource, so it'd be interesting to see what's possible.
All right.
Great.
All right. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Excited to work with you guys. This, you know, I came in about the map, but I'm excited about what I'm leaving with. So thank you.
That's great. I really appreciate your work, and you've been very, very responsive.
All right, and I'll come back tomorrow to put the screen up and everything.
Great. Next on our agenda is the historic building inventory. And Robert's here, and we have a, so our update is, we have worked out an MOU that I think is, and Robert can maybe ask you to spend a few minutes and just, you can update us from the Historical Commission's meeting. We have a recommendation from the Historical Commission on a contractor to award a service agreement to do 24 properties, forms. And we have a model service draft, a final draft of a service agreement. So Robert's going to kind of summarize that in the Historical Commission's work. Our decision, we have 2 or 3 decisions. We have so one decision we have is to approve entering into the, signing the MOU with the Historical Commission. That's one decision. Second decision is awarding a contract for the next batch of the inventory forms to be done. And I think those are the two decisions, because we would be awarding and then moving forward with a contract with that recommended person. So,
Okay.
Thanks.
That's what we're gonna try to do. And Robert, if you want to kind of just summarize the work that the Historical Commission has gotten us to date here. Thank you.
Robert Mahol, thank you very much, buddy. Do any of you or all of you have copies of any of the things? That stuff, great, wonderful. Sorry, my mouth is now full. My breath is better. So we've been doing Form B inventories for many years, and I'm new to this process, just having joined the Historical Commission mid-last year, and was immediately made chairperson because the current chairperson wanted to do more travel and that kind of stuff, and I said I would show up. So I'm doing this now. And we've been using the Public Architectural Laboratory in Rhode Island for a long time. They're terrific, very responsive, no complaints about them. But two things made us want to sort of broaden our search for another contractor. Always good to have a lot of contractors in your pipeline, but one, their costs were creeping up. They were up to, I believe, $385 per complete Form B. I'd gotten a report from Chris Sewell that the last round they had done required a lot more back and forth than maybe she had in prior rounds, and they had no experience with doing what's called a Form A. In this case, a Form A is an area-wide inventory. In this case, we wanted to include the Smithville camp and the various buildings that are there, and so we wanted to find somebody, if we could, not learning on the job, but somebody who had experience doing a Form A. And one of the members, Sue Guiducci, had because she busies herself in a lot of these things, and she had good experience. She met somebody in Marion who had a good experience working with this woman, who we eventually contacted, who did a same kind of a Christian camp in Marion. That I think I sent through Buddy, an example of the work that she did that they were thrilled with, and it was a very complicated Form A inventory. So we made some kind of contact with her and learned that she had been doing it for 17 years and had a really good feel. We've talked with her many times, interviewed her. Her cost is lower, about $315 per complete, and she does have the Form A expertise, which makes us pretty happy. And so what we'd like to do is, I've given her resume to Buddy, and what we'd like to do is go ahead and use her on a trial basis for this inventory. And I think we can squeeze in, the Form A will cost us about $2,500 for Smith Mills Camp and all the buildings over there. And she has not done work in Bristol County before, but she's done work in all the surrounding counties, and she feels confident that she can interface with the county and understand the reporting procedures. She's very familiar with MACRIS and MCH that we have to adhere to. So we would like to use her. The service agreement that we propose to use with her is one that we've used at the DCH. I'm sorry, at the DHC many times before, with slight modification just for her name and her business. That we will bring in front of the town and town finance committee, and there should not be a problem there. So that is my proposal, is to use this woman. Her name is Lynn Smilage, and use her as our contractor going forward. I think the one thing that I would change on the existing agreement that we have there is, I think, my overambitious date of April 1st to complete. I think I say, unless both parties agree to extend it, I think we're going to agree to extend it. I think it's going to take us probably till June or so to get this work done, and even then, it could be extended if both parties agree that it takes more time. If complications arise or more back and forth work is required, these things take time. So that's my proposal on that end, and I'd hope that you can agree that this is a good use of money and that this contractor is going to be a good fit for our needs. With regard to the memorandum of understanding, it's something that I know that on our side, on the historical council or committee, we have wanted to have for a long time. Just a working understanding between us and you on the CPC for how we do business together, what our various responsibilities are, and what we can expect from each other. And so I was thrilled when Buddy put that together. And I made a very few amendments to it, but I think it's really well done. And I hope that you will see fit to approve it, and we can use it as a template going forward and do good things.
Wait, a question. Can you say a little bit about your solicitation process for the contract?
Yep. So I was just sending you an email. I had trouble printing out my solicitation, home network issues, but I did two things, and we wasn't really sure what was required for sub $10,000 bids, and so whatever is required, I'll be better aware of it going forward. One of the things I did is I put a very small RFP out on the Macris listserv, asking other town historians for names of other contractors who do this kind of work. Got two names, contacted one, and they're a person who lives in New Hampshire and does this work remotely only, and their price was close to $400. And so we did not want to go forward with them. And the only other one that we considered was going back to Holly Herbster at PAL, and they're very backlogged at this point, and their cost is higher. And again, the lack of Form A expertise made us sort of shy away from them at this point. If we've got whatever the rules are going forward, we'll adhere to them in a better way. If it's a 3 contractor minimum or public bidding process, just need to be better. I need to better
Is this
understand
person the
that.
lowest bid?
She was the lowest bid.
Okay.
By far, yeah,
Well, that takes care of that.
yeah.
Questions?
I read a thing, I got confused because I missed last meeting, and I'm looking at, trying to figure out where this Grinnell Street is with all that property at first, because I was looking at it, I saw Route 6, I'm like, wow, I don't know, I'm trying to think. And it finally caught on when I read Deep at Marion, kind of threw me off a little bit.
It
Oh,
did
yeah,
me
yeah.
too. I'm looking at it
We've
going,
expanded our.
I'm looking at, it going, is this
Jurisdiction.
a project? I'm like, looking at
man,
Route
have we
6,
gone
I'm
off the rails? I missed one meeting and they went off the rails over there.
We've adopted Marion, yeah.
We're taking over Greenland and Marion.
Yeah.
I'm in.
yeah,
Let's
Greenland's
get, I like
next,
Marion,
yeah.
let's take that, they got a nice boat ramp there, let's take it.
They do have a nice boat.
Well, first, let's take up the question of executing this MOU with the Historical Commission. And as I described at the last meeting for those who weren't here, the key thing is this does, as Robert was saying, it puts in writing a relationship that we've actually had with the Historical Commission for some time now. But it also kind of puts us in a place in which we can periodically keep up with the historical building inventory in particular without having to kind of reinvent the wheel every time. New MOU, new. So in this MOU is the process of how we will continue to work with the Historical Commission in partnering with them about maintaining an updated inventory.
Wouldn't that be the same thing that anybody who came in for something that periodically the project review have to send in? I mean, that would be the same thing for them, right?
Not following,
The Southworth Library, the original one, we said that periodically when we wanted a project review from the,
the difference here is we're using our administrative funds. And so that means we own this, right? So we can't, and this is what's important about it's a partnership. We are partnering with the Historical Commission. The Historical Commission is acting as our agent. Because we don't have the authority to award funds. Only town meeting can award funds. We can expend administrative funds, and the CPA is very clear that one of the uses of administrative funds is to do something like a historic building inventory. We don't have that expertise. And so in this partnership, the Historical Commission is our lead, both with the expertise about what needs to be done, who would be a good person to do it, overseeing the contract on our behalf, is it getting done correctly, and then a repository for the results, so that the public can access it, because, again, we're not set up in that way. And so the public can find the physical form in the DHC files, or they can go and connect even through our website to the digital.
Motion to move forward with a MOU with the Historic Commission?
I'll second that.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And that is unanimous. And then the next thing then is, the Historical Commission is making a recommendation, Ms. Smilage?
Smilage.
It's a good name.
To be the, yeah, that is a good name, to be the, to execute a contract, a service agreement with Lynn Smilage, consultant, for the completion of the 24 Form Bs and a Form A that was described.
Motion to accept the
I have a question.
Historic
Yeah.
Commission's recommendation?
In a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, I have a question. On the contract, it says $315,000, $315 each, and a total of $98.50. Well, 24 times 315 it comes out more
That's
like,
the Form A, right? That's gonna cost
is that what's costing extra?
$2,200.90.
Okay, all right. Because it doesn't say, it's a little confusing there with Article 3.
It's a good point.
Okay, so I think that,
I should probably enumerate that better.
I think you do, because it's
Okay, yeah.
confusing to me.
That was a draft service
Okay.
agreement, but I'll make sure that it's in there. It's a good point.
Okay, thank you.
So you're just gonna break out the Form A
Right.
and the rest of the Form Bs, how many Form Bs you're doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they did break out that, but then if somebody looks at this contract, it just doesn't make
What she said
monetary
she would
sense.
do is she would charge for the Form A, what it takes to fit into the remainder, but I'll enumerate that.
Thank you.
I think, and what we'll want to do is, I think if this would be the friendly amendment, is that what you say? Friendly amendment, whoever made the motion, would be subject to the final town review of the,
Contract.
yes, contract and, solicitation process, just to make sure that, everything's checked off, this is fine.
I don't have a problem with that amendment on my original motion.
Any other questions or discussion?
Just that, as you noted, you have completed by April 30th, that you're gonna change that to June 30th completion date?
That's the way to do it.
I think most of the ones that they've ever done, they've come back and we've always extended them anyways. I don't think we've ever held anybody to a date, because we understood, I think even when Diane was doing it, we had problems with the dates.
Right.
Trying to get it done.
And I'll come back in and give a report periodically.
Good.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yep, so, well, we haven't voted yet, maybe this might not pass, we have to see. Don't go anywhere yet.
We need another lifesaver.
I might need you. So on the motion, to, enter into a service contract with Lynn Smilage, consultant for historic properties, for the completion of the 24, Form Bs and the Form A, as described in this service agreement, subject to final review by the town of the procurement process and contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Great, so I think if you would be so kind as to update the service agreement, and send it to Michelle. It should go on either town or CPC letterhead. And then,
Just the three people that were involved in the procurement
yeah,
process.
and then just
all three.
something that would just, what you were gonna send me that summarized the procurement, how we found this person.
Okay.
And then we'll have Mr. Carrero say that's fine to go ahead and execute the agreement.
Okay.
But, yeah, if you want to send that, I think we could probably turn that pretty quickly with him. So that would be great.
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
Thanks again.
Okay. Oh, yeah, if you want to sign it now,
Hey, John, they changed it under 50,000.
what is this? Yeah,
They changed the procurement, right, the amount? Oh, sure, yeah. If it's under $10,000, it's just,
I think they have, but I couldn't tell you what that
I know
number
they
is.
changed it.
There was a
Today's-
change.
yeah, they've moved it around a little bit, so I think, just by calling 3 people. No, chapter 30 was very specific, but I think we as a
flies,
town were more
2025.
Whether you put Greg on the procurement than chapter 30.
Thank you very much. Take care. Okay, project updates. So in terms of project updates, we've got a backlog with the town on the execution of the MOUs. So we still don't have the executed MOUs for the Cornell Pond, the Apponeganset Master Plan, and the dredging, and the housing production plan. So those were approved at June town meeting, but we still don't have the executed MOU. So I got to follow up with Chris Vitale,
Right to town, down in the
get those
village,
squared away.
digging away in the village.
Yeah. And we do have the executed agreement for the North Scenic Greenway, and we do have the execution for the dinghy improvement. So we've got to get these other ones squared away. And then project status reports, the ones we have, Michelle, do we have any hard copies of those? All right. And I think the people received these via email or not? I don't know if people did.
I'm sorry, no, I didn't.
Okay. How about if I just try to summarize and pass them along? But it would be good to
Yeah.
get it out to folks. Heritage Trail, everything is complete, but for the installation of the signs along the route, there's been delays and staffing issues at DPW for installing the signs. And they are now looking to see if the town would give the green light so that they could, and the town would then subcontract for the installation of the signs. They feel like there's sufficient funds in the balance of the contract, or the grant to do that, but they're trying to get the DPW to say, okay, if we can't do it with our forces, but we will find a contractor to do the work. And they haven't gotten to that step yet. So as I've said, I've written to Mr. Barber and asked him to, that this is this project is delayed because of the sign installation, and it's an essential part of the project. You don't have a trail if you don't have the signs.
Are the signs made?
It's pretty essential piece of
Yeah, I
this.
was
But are the
surprised by your
signs-
comment, the project is complete, except the signs are
Are the
right.
signs made?
Yeah.
That is
yeah.
the project.
And that's what, yes, yeah, I shouldn't have used the word complete, because that was my point to the Pathways Committee is we'll still need to get updates because the
Who has the
project's not
signs?
done.
Who has the signs? Are they made?
I believe the signs are made.
Signs are made, so it just
It's
needs
to
the installation of,
Installation, there's
how
about,
many signs?
that's a great question,
20?
35.
35 signs. So there's 35 signs that need to be installed. And how much money do they have?
I think they have about 12 grand, a little bit less than 12 grand, between 11 and 12
You
grand.
want to do a side project? For 12 grand? I'll
I
put
was
up
gonna
35
say, I
signs.
know an ex-safety officer that
Put
can
up for 35.
supervise this
Yep,
project, a
you
bunch of
probably
volunteers.
I'll be the owner,
Shovels out there and,
Yeah,
That Joe directing traffic as we're slinging dirt out into the sidewalk.
Well, that's true, yeah, you've
Oh,
got.
Brandon, I'll put the signs up myself. I'll start tomorrow.
So, we'll see if we can break the logjam. I haven't heard back from Mr. Barber, but basically I was gonna put in the good words that we'd really like this project to be completed, and it can't be done without the signs being installed. So, more to come on that, but that one's kind of stuck right now. The Dias Landing, we have very detailed, I have to really appreciate Mr. Mello, Harbor Master. He's provided very detailed updates. And as you can see, if you've gone by the harbor, the construction of the expanded Dias Landing is underway. So he describes in some detail about the delays. Part of it was Army Corps of Engineers permits, that was kind of delayed. Because they've been hoping to start early fall, but that had been delayed. And the things you don't think about, well, I don't think about, but they had to also wait for the right tide in order to get the barge under the bridge, so it had to be a pretty low tide, and those don't come along every day. Work is now in progress, and I think he feels like, in a sense here. So the construction has proceeded at remarkable speed, and completion is anticipated by the end of February of 2025. So
Oh, that's great.
about another 6 weeks, they hope to be finished. That looks like some super, I'll pass it along, because there's a lot of detail here, and I gave you a very quick. That looks like some very, very cold work out there. I go by there a few times, and that looks tough. The Northern Scenic Greenway, their application for a Mass Trails grant is due on February 1st, with awards announced in mid-June. And the plan is to hire the Serped to manage the Greenway project. And the Community Preservation Committees of Westport and New Bedford are reviewing applications for matching funds for this regional project. And if they receive the Mass Trails grant, they would expect that the engineering firm and study work would happen after July 1st of this year. So that's moving forward. And I believe, just for folks who weren't here, the big change in the cultural center work is there's been a long delay at the town to get their lease renewed. And in the process of finally getting movement on that, they were advised that instead of coming back for these one-year leases, they really needed, and ought to go to town meeting and get awarded a 30-year lease. So I think that's their intention, is to go to June town meeting, have a warrant article for a 30-year lease for the property. When they do that, and Margaret's got a little bit of information, their architect and some other folks advise them, if you get the 30-year lease, you will not have to follow some state procurement laws, because you will be deemed as having site control because of the length of the lease, which could save a lot of money in terms of, so what they want to do is delay any further work on the property, get the 30-year lease, and then commence work in the late fall of this year. So that's a big delay, but their rationale is they think with a 30-year lease, the project will be more cost-effective. And Margaret, you want to add to that?
And grants also, for nonprofits, with a long-term lease, they're able to get more grants, okay? Because the people giving the money feel that this is a long-term project, they're gonna be there for this term, so they're, feel more freely to give more money. Ms. Duff said that they have, I guess, about $500,000 already in grants. So, you know, but they're holding off now. It took some time for the selectmen to decide what to do, but they are hoping, they're asking for a 30-year lease. They're hoping at least to get a 10-year lease, okay? But I feel the town should give them a 30-year lease, you know? Who else is gonna use that building? They're using that building, and it's really beautiful. They're gonna, a lot of work in that building with the windows and the heating system and the ramps, and so I hope the selectmen will give them a 30-year lease.
So that's what we have. I was looking at the list. About half of our projects are current with their project status reports, and the other half not. And those are basically those are the town projects that we need to get project status reports. And what we're asking is not a lot. We're sort of one a quarter, which can also include if you've submitted an invoice. All invoices come with project status reports. So if you submit one invoice in a quarter, we're fine. So, but if you haven't submitted any invoices by the last part of the quarter, we're asking that you just submit one of these. I think people are finding that it's not burdensome to
I
do.
read one going through there, and I'm just not sure what we've done in the past. It says that the Waterways Council in Boston refused, they didn't get the grant for the dinghies.
I got,
So what?
yeah, did we get, I think we did get a project status report on the dinghy improvement. I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on there. I just read the
Sorry.
thing.
Yes.
They didn't get, and they didn't get
They
the
did
money
not
from
get
the
the
from the
grant.
Seaport thing, so now they're basically, when we sold it to town meeting, it was based upon their Seaport grant, correct, so now that's not there.
Thank you, Joe. I missed
Yeah,
that.
it was at the bottom of the other one, there was a two-page thing, I just wasn't sure when I read that.
Yeah, they did not get the Seaport.
Right, I see that.
Economic Council grant.
And they don't know why.
Yeah. What they would like is some more time to think if there is either other funding they could see or something. So they would like some time to sort out whether or not they can still use the grant
Just
funds.
his last sentence says he wanted to
Right.
just use the money that was there, that we have, even pending any grant thing. It led me to believe that they were gonna use the money that we allocated them at town meeting without the matching grant.
No, it'd have to be for
Yeah,
this project.
That was my
Yeah.
only
Right.
concern, because
Right.
it's written in a way there, the last sentence, which led me to believe that they were gonna use it. I don't know, John, you read that? You see the same thing there,
I read too fast.
the last sentence?
I was
what
confused
was
by
that? I
it,
wasn't
that's
listening,
why.
Joe.
Dingy,
Yeah,
the last sentence of the dinghy thing, she has it, right?
the last paragraph, Sue.
There's only one paragraph.
You got page 2?
Yeah.
Last paragraph.
In their report, you'll see.
If it is possible to keep the CPC matching grant funds open long enough to allow the commission to explore alternative possible sources for primary project funding, CR consistent use of the CPC funds to improve the existing racks, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, so they wanna, look,
Just wanna
want some
hold
more
it
time,
open.
Just one
yeah,
order, and that's-
more time to find.
We've done that before.
find something, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I just,
Yep. Yep. Thank you. I'd totally forgotten that they actually that Steve had actually submitted something on that.
Seaport's been funny lately.
Yeah.
I don't know, there was some problems with, from what I've heard, there were some problems with them getting everything in on time, too.
I mean, it's a great project, it's just that.
It is a great
whatever- Whatever the issue is
Right.
with the state, I mean, if it's something
Yeah,
they're gonna
getting-
go back to us, I think it's great, but I just,
Yeah.
concerning.
The Agricultural Preservation Fund Working Group, I have been lax in getting us off the ground, but I'm gonna reach out. We have members for the working group. We'll start to meet. We've got the copy of the bylaws that the Ag Trust has used. And there's some very good information about 61A properties in town. So I gotta get this email out to everybody so the working group can just start to meet and move forward on that. Thank you. I have these electronically. Yep. And then the open space preservation, preservation process. So this is the whole thing around the conservation restriction. People have received the summary of the meeting that we had with various entities that are the typical folks who would be capable of jointly holding a conservation restriction with the town. So the purpose of this meeting was they certainly are the ones capable, would they be willing or interested, was the point of this meeting. And so I think there is interest and willingness. You can see from the notes kind of there is some experience in jointly holding conservation restrictions. And then there was some information shared about how they try to value what an endowment is, how much money they would need in order to fulfill the duties of jointly holding. So these entities seem pretty experienced and interested if the town needed to do that. So I think Mr. Garrett's primary concern is capacity to take on more conservation restrictions and the monitoring responsibilities. I think his feeling that the current obligations of the Conservation Commission or department are kind of beyond their capacity already, so he's very concerned about holding more CRs going in the future. But he and I have met, we've gone over this and went over it with this group. The state is looking for, if the town is gonna use CPA funds to acquire property or open space, they need to see how the real property interest was in the town's hand. So either like Pascomansit, the town, when they complete that deal, the town will own the land. So that's very clear. Where there's a conservation restriction involved, that's the town's fee interest or real property interest in something. So that's where the state is saying, then if you use the CPA funds for a conservation restriction, then you have to show that conservation restriction is in the town's hands.
If they have a fee,
Because only the town,
right.
the CPA is the town has the fee interest.
Right.
So, again, reminding us of what has been approved in the past by the state and no longer going forward were deals in which entity number one was going to acquire a property and the CPA funds paid the value of the conservation restrictions. So instead, okay, they're gonna put a conservation restriction on the property in exchange for the CPA funds. And then party B, or number two, is gonna hold the restriction. And then the town is over here.
Yeah.
So that's where the state was, they were they approved those things before, they said, we're not gonna do it anymore. The state has to, the town has to hold it. So, I think I'm very optimistic that the capacity issue can then be addressed by joint holding, so that those responsibilities can then be contracted out. And just like we learned many years ago around historic preservation, if someone's gonna hold a restriction in an entity and they need compensation for that, it would be in the form of an endowment, and that entity has to apply separately, and the town has to award separately the endowment. So, we kind of talked about that at this meeting. So, I think the next, yes,
I just have a question on CRs, because when we have that land and the town owns the land, who is responsible for the maintenance of that land? Because we just see what's happening in California now. And if you walk in some of the pathways now that we have in this town, there are fallen trees, there's brush, there's all that is remaining there. Who is responsible for the trees that fall and block the paths? And, I mean, is it the town of Dartmouth? Is it DPW? Is it, that's my question and my concern.
yeah. I don't know, but I think Mark Garrett might say it depends, some.
It's whoever owns the land, right? Because the CR is just buying off the development
But
rights.
that's, right, but who owns the land?
Right.
Who owns the land?
Right, so it might be in DPWs,
Right,
or it might be conservation.
Right.
Conservation. If
So-
you recall, I can't remember what it was, there was a piece of property, the conservation came in a few years ago looking to put a restriction on it. And I brought up the fact, well, you folks have own the restrictions, own the property at the, out along Lake and Okeechobee.
Oh, that path off of Highland Ave?
Yeah, what's that property called? It's a Catholic organization.
Yes.
Oh,
That's the pathway that goes down to the,
So,
yeah.
I've heard
yeah,
from people-
interfaith or something like that, or.
Interchurch Council.
oh,
Interchurch
interchurch
council.
council,
Yeah,
right,
interchurch, former
interchurch
interchurch.
council.
Yeah, that's the
Which conservation took that over years ago. It's used a lot for fishing and walking, but also kids go back there and get a little
Go to the island.
rowdy and make a mess.
Yeah.
And nobody cleans it up.
That's what I'm
And
asking.
neighbors have been complaining for years. And I said, how can I entrust you that you're gonna maintain this piece of property and you've owned a piece of property that's been in disrepair for years? You gotta fix that. I can't remember how it got resolved and what they did, but.
They put a chain
there's-
across and
I
said,
understand
you
why
know,
Mark's saying, we
Yeah,
can't take.
right,
They just don't
exactly.
have the staff to go out there. And,
Right.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
It's not the DPW, they know, I'm sure arrangements could be made, but, we can't get the DPW to put up signs, on streets, never mind have them go in and
Well-
clear paths somewhere.
well, this is-
The staffing just
I
isn't
mean,
there.
it's wonderful to take all this land, it's wonderful to have open space, and it's wonderful because, I'm an animal lover, it's just great. But when you walk down these places and you see, 10 years ago, we had a hurricane, and the trees are still there, nobody's cut them, nobody's done anything, you gotta kind of pop over them, you begin to wonder, somebody has to maintain this, and I don't know who, but somebody has to maintain this land.
It's a bigger conversation between multiple departments.
It has to be.
Yeah, but as John says, I mean, it is a
Well,
reasonable
it
concern.
depends who, it's not, conservation's, for an example,
Right.
is not their main, priority or their mission, is not open space recreation. That's more parks. Now if the Parks Department had, the North Park, you couldn't gain access to it because there was tree down, well, there'd be questions, hey, wait a minute, that's your job.
Right.
That's your mission to maintain these parks, right? That's not the mission of the conservation to maintain. The selectmen own a number of pieces of property, it's not their mission to
They should delegate, but the problem is,
maintain paths.
we're bringing it up, they're the ones that should be bringing it up, saying, hey, we need to have somebody do it.
Yes.
We need to have, like, again, part of the ownership. If you're looking at your gutter and you see it falling, like, I've gotta get somebody, I can't climb up there, but I'm gonna get somebody to fix it. Same thing applies to whether it be the selectmen, conservation, whoever owns these properties. It's up to them to say, hey, we need to get this fixed. You know, because supposedly they walk the property, right? Isn't that part of the
Yeah.
conservation? Well, maybe they just like walking over that tree.
Well, I mean, I know because I walk.
It's a special
those
tree.
properties. And, you know, I'm just concerned because these trees and this brush should be cleaned up. It really should be. And, you know, for planning, I just did something with cisterns and all, and I learned a lot about fires from the fire chiefs. And, you know, if we ever have a fire like they have in California, if this brush ever goes, we're gonna go all the way to Plymouth with the
That'll stop at the river.
it'll stop at the river, I don't know.
at the river.
But I think if Buzzards Bay or DNRT or Conservation, then somebody has to maintain these paths.
I have
Somebody
seen,
has to clean
I
them.
have seen DNRT, we
I
had a
have
problem,
seen,
we have had a
yes.
problem, especially Russell Mills Road near the Buntwood Brook. There was
Yes.
some overgrowth blocking some people coming out of a roadway. And we told them we're gonna get the DPW just to mow and cut it, and 2 days later, they had a crew of 4 or 5 people in there cleaning it up. And they do go out there, cause they'll post it now and then online that this, Destruction
Right.
Brook is shut down for the day because we're gonna be doing,
I've
path
seen that,
maintenance. So
yeah.
they're doing it.
Right.
It's, once again, it's the town. Who hasn't turned in the reports? The town.
Right.
Who hasn't done maintenance of the road? The town. It's a common denominator here. This is, everybody, all roads lead to one spot. It's the town's deficient in what they're supposed to do.
That's just
Because
my
everybody does
concern.
this.
Right. It's a concern, though,
Yeah, until somebody gets hurt.
right.
I think the next step here, I think is probably I'll probably go to the Conservation Commission meeting some point in the near future and just make sure, you know, this is what we're working on. Joint holding of a conservation restriction is possible, and it looks like it's a viable path to take. They would need to consider, you know, a model service agreement that they would use. You know, but I did, was clear that, you know, as a committee, we decided not to pause on any open space projects. And if we had proposals, we would deal with the proposals and work with conservation to, you know, get all the pieces in order by
I
whatever
think,
the
Margaret,
town
that's
meeting
that's a
was.
valid point that was brought up about the stuff that's not being maintained. And there's no sense spending tens of thousands
That's
of
right.
dollars to have stuff. And then just for the, okay, yeah, it's great, pictures, that's it, see you later, put up
Yeah.
a sign, and everybody walks away. And we have a list of what properties are held by both, because I know the selectmen hold property, right? DPW now holds property.
Yeah.
Conservation holds
Right.
property.
Yeah.
We should have a list of those and
Yes.
actually have them do an audit
Yeah,
and say,
the
what
open
has been
space and
done?
recreation plan has a really good, if you look at those on a really,
Used to be a
really
map
good
over here, I
list
think,
of
of all the property
properties.
that the town owned, I think at one
Yeah,
time
they
here
do
in this
have a
room.
map, there is a map.
Yeah, it
And
used to
you
be,
have
it used to be right behind you, Margaret.
Yep, well, there's a map online, I
map?
think.
This is the
There's one that had all the town-owned properties or town.
61A map.
Yes. Oh, that's a good
Yeah,
one.
you might wanna, at the close, we're gonna end our meeting early, you might wanna look at this, but Michelle, you wanna describe what this is the map that,
It was
Came
something
from
that
Ross?
you had talked with Sukaduchi about,
yeah,
and Ross had printed them out today, one for you and
Oh,
one
Ross
for-
printed them out?
Yeah,
Oh, so we have those in the
Excellent.
are they online?
Yeah.
yeah, I believe so.
They're online, well, that's great.
excellent, excellent.
Because you can get a list from the assessor's office, because I requested a list,
They've
and I
had,
do have a list.
this room had maps of all of that.
Yes,
And
they
some of-
did have.
And some of them are taken down,
Yep.
because I think it's the
Yep.
two that are missing, that, they used to have the overlays of all the properties, had the 61A properties,
Yep.
one that it had all the town-owned properties, so what entity owned each one of them, and it showed all the protected properties, that's what showed Pascomansit, all the way up to Route 6, all the way down.
So, for our next meeting, one thing we will have, I'll ask Chris to provide a annual report on the Housing Trust and Rehab Program. That's something we get once a year, so we'll have that. We will have, our proposal deadlines is next week. And so we will have some proposals that you'll get towards the end of this month. And we'll want to talk about those proposals at our February meeting, with the idea that the public hearing part would be in March. Now, I would like to ask the committee's indulgence, because I'm gonna be on the road in February.
Go back fishing again?
I hope not.
Yeah, a little too cold for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is kid visiting
Oh,
Luke,
grandchildren,
Chicago and
yeah.
Pittsburgh. So would it be possible to meet on the first Tuesday of February instead of the second?
Yeah, it works for me.
If you all could do that.
I have a conflict.
What's the date? What is the date?
The
Give me date.
4th,
The
yeah.
4th?
John, you have a conflict. Let me,
I don't know.
how about if we'll poll the other folks who aren't here too, and let's see if that's possible. If not, we'll stick to the 10th, and Jim, I'd ask if you, I mean, the 11th, the 11th, and Jim, I would ask if you could chair that, and I would send, if we have any project stuff, I'll just send my comments in writing and stuff like that. So, I'll poll, and let's see if that would work.
I'm available the 11th, but I'm not. I have another meeting on the 4th.
Okay, all right.
Who else we're missing? Mike.
Right, I know, Mike couldn't make it today, and,
else we missing?
Chris is traveling, he's out of the country,
I
yeah,
think she'll be back by then.
yeah. Okay. All right, that's what I have, anything else before we adjourn?
Should you have the cookies on the 4th?
Yeah, you missed them. I made a
So
little-
make sure you have your cookies on the 4th.
That's a real possibility,
Just saying.
let me put that
Is
down.
that a bribe?
I'm looking
Is that a
forward, yeah,
bribe?
of course, I'm not that far away from a cookie bribe, I mean, you know.
Pre-Valentine's Day,
Yeah,
Yes.
that
we
is true.
expect a selection of heart cookies.
Yeah, I'm putting a circle around it. All right, so a motion to adjourn the meeting,
Motion.
and all in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.